My heart is like pounding. I've never got this scared in my life.
Aisha's alive. She's safe and sound.
I don't think that she would have run away like that. It's just not something she would do.
If, in fact, she left on her own, then okay, she's okay, and that'll be fine. But in case she has a problem or she's in trouble, we want to find her.
At this time, we are not going to be taking any questions as we don't have the answers at this moment.
She's alive. She's well. We believe our prayers have been answered.
And he left and he was so pissed. Pick up your phones. I am freaked out right now.
Good evening, everyone. Jane Velez Mitchell coming to you from New York City. It was every parent's worst nightmare. A beautiful, innocent young girl abducted in broad daylight. Aisha Kahn left frantic voicemails before she disappeared, saying a drunk or stoned man had just attacked her. Police and FBI launched a frantic nationwide manhunt while her devastated parents wept and begged the public for help.
Please keep praying for us. We need help. We need all your support. Please, need all that.
But parts of the story just didn't add up when she vanished. Aisha was supposedly studying right there at an outdoor picnic table on a college campus. But just so happens we checked. It was a very cold day in Kansas, a high of 39 degrees. We all started wondering, why would she be studying outside at a picnic table if it was freezing outside? Well, tonight, another head-spinning twist. Oops, never mind. She's been found. Aisha wasn't abducted after all. Early this morning, a family spokesperson held a news conference to deliver this bombshell.
Aisha's alive. She is safe and sound. We heard this from the Overland Park Police Department just a while back, that she's unharmed. Our prayers have been answered. The family is very ecstatic about this.
The big question tonight, why? If she wasn't abducted, why did she stage this? Where was she hiding during this time? And why did she leave a frantic voicemail claiming a homeless stranger attacked her and she slapped him back?
And he left and he was so pissed. Pick up your phones. I am freaked out right now. Okay. I end of message.
So we are now learning that the man in Aisha's voicemails may have been a figment of her imagination. Aisha was a newlywed, just married this past July. She had her wedding reception just a few weeks ago. Was that what she was trying to escape from? Was Aisha Kahn a classic runaway bride? Straight out to investigative reporter Michelle Sagona. So many unanswered questions. What have you learned tonight?
Well, I can tell you that overnight, that's when the family did learn that she was okay and that they would be reunited with her after 6 days of extensive searching for her. As you mentioned, it went out nationwide, all over, all the major networks. Everyone was covering the story because stranger abductions, especially in the middle of the daylight hours, especially an adult, are not common. They're very uncommon. And so when this story broke, especially on a college campus, everyone was just sort of in shock and didn't know what to believe. And that's why everyone was doing what they could to try to find her. Are the
cops saying anything? Are they saying, here's where she went, here's why she went, where she went?
They're not seeing anything yet, but I'm sure that they probably will, especially because there's so many resources that were devoted to this case over the last 6 days.
Yeah, and you're talking taxpayers'
money, volunteers, people really coming together to help find this young lady. And
not only that, her friends were devastated coming on our show.
Her friends were devastated, her family, her parents, her husband. I mean, they were a wreck.
Well,
and it just really wasn't fair to them.
Now, let's remember, Aisha just got married. All this struck me as, who does this remind me of? Who? I know. The infamous runaway bride, Jennifer Wilbanks. Remember her from Duluth, Georgia? Jennifer disappeared 4 days before her lavish 2005 wedding, and it quickly became a national search. She even called her fiancé at one point and falsely claimed that she had been kidnapped. The ordeal put Jennifer's family through the ringer.
We love Jennifer very much. We would give our life and everything that we own to have her returned.
Mike Brooks, runaway bride number one, ended up in big trouble. What is going to happen to Aisha if it turns out she staged all of this?
Well, I tell you what, she should also wind up in big trouble, Jane. You know, what did I thought that message, her frantic message, wasn't frantic at all. I thought it was BS right from the beginning, along with, you know, this guy. Jane, on a college campus, if you got some drunk guy, some guy who's high, bothering her, don't you think he's going to be bothering other people? No one else saw him. And those construction workers, those three construction workers that saw her walking away, well, apparently they saw her walking away. Now, there should be some charges brought against her for all the local, state, and federal resources that were put forth in the efforts to find her. But why did she do this? That's the question.
Yes, that is the big question, and I want to listen to more of the bizarre voicemail you referred to, Mike, that Aisha left for her sister, a voicemail which we now believe was a hoax. Check it out.
Oh my gosh, it was so scary. My heart is like pounding. I've never got this scared in my life.
And remember, Aisha called her sister, not the cops. Mike Arglarsh, to me, that was one of the first tip-offs that something was odd. She's studying outside. Nobody sees this guy. Construction workers saw her walk off by herself or somebody who looked like her. And she doesn't call 911. She calls her sister.
Yeah, but even then, we think, you know, let's give her the presumption. I mean, she must be missing this, must be something serious. And that's the problem with all of this. Next time, we may hesitate. You may get fewer volunteers. You may get law enforcement who assumes, well, this is probably a hoax, we won't work as hard, and it might be a legitimate abduction. There are several things I don't understand. I don't understand why this happened. I don't understand how to fold a fitted sheet. And I don't understand what will happen to her. I do hope, however, she will be prosecuted like the runaway bride, because not only were tons of hours wasted by law enforcement, but people will hesitate next time and think maybe it's a hoax.
Well, let me defend her for a second, because I don't judge people until I walk in their shoes, unless they've killed somebody. Then I judge them. But maybe she was under pressures that we don't understand. Maybe. Okay. People keep asking, one of the big questions everybody's asking is, did she really want to get married, or was it some kind of forced marriage? She's just 19 years old. In fact, last night on Nancy Grace, her cousin denied that it was a forced marriage. So listen to this.
She has known him since they were, you know, very young. He's known to the family. He's part of the extended family network back home in Pakistan. They always liked each other. And, you know, there was no forced marriage.
Well, Lisa Boski, I've known a lot of people since I was very young. None of them I want to marry. Quite au contraire. To me, that smacks of, it kind of smacks of, oh, you two kids would be good for each other. Go ahead and get married. Maybe she didn't want to get married. Maybe she got married and decided, I feel like I've got bars over my eyeballs. Maybe she didn't want to dress in her traditional costume. I have no idea. I'm just asking these questions because we've got to try to understand why she did what she did.
Well, as a psychologist,
let me say her traditional headdress. Proceed.
As a psychologist, when we see teenagers or college-age women who are reported missing by their parents, almost always they've run away. And the two main reasons are, number one, they're trying to send a message to their family, and number two, they want to be with some boy or young man that their family doesn't approve of. So we kind of think it's maybe number one, but is it also possibly number two? There's something more here, and I don't know if the family's ever going to come out and tell us, because the family may be embarrassed about what the reason really is. Clearly, they're joyous and relieved and thrilled that she's home, but I don't think they're so happy that this was broadcast over, you know, the national media, and now it looks like she was just choosing of her own accord.
Stacey Honowitz, if, and I don't know this, but if, hypothetically, it was some kind of forced marriage that she didn't want to take part in, could that cause leniency if she gets in trouble on creating an alleged hoax?
No prosecutor should really take that into consideration, because you open the door for everybody else who said I was forced to do something to then lead the nation to try to find them when they're unhappy. So that's not one of the factors that a prosecutor would take into consideration.
I don't know about that, though, because
there's other things. There's other things.
Coercion.
There's other things that maybe, I mean, short of her being mentally ill or physically abused, there's still other avenues other than to stage your own disappearance. So again, Jane, unless it's something substantial, like she's mentally ill, that's not a route that a prosecutor is going to go down, because you are asking for the floodgates to be open for everybody else who wants to get out of something to then stage it. Too many people were involved, too many lives have been changed, too many people volunteered, too many agencies got involved.
More on this 19-year-old student's sudden and bizarre 6-day disappearance right after leaving voicemails in which she claimed to be frantic and freaked out.
There's going to be people stopping by with flyers. You know, just cooperate with them. Let them put the flyers up if you don't mind. Keep us in your prayers. And think of Aisha Kahn all the time. You're going to the gas station. You're going to the post office. Think of Aisha Kahn at all times.
My heart is like pounding. I've never got this scared in my life.
It's the toughest thing that they've probably ever gone through.
And he left and he was so pissed. Pick up your phones. I am freaked out right now.
You don't know what's happening. You know, if she's out there in the cold, if she's hungry for the last 2 days, if she has clothes or not.
Keep us in your prayers. And think of Aisha Kahn all the time. You're going to the gas station, you're going to the post office. Think of Aisha Kahn at all times.
She's a beautiful, wide-eyed 19-year-old who had her life ahead of her studying at a university in Kansas, outdoors at a picnic table in 39-degree weather, and suddenly she vanishes into thin air after leaving a frantic voicemail. Well, now she's turned up after the whole nation was hunting for her for 6 days. We don't know where she was. We don't know why she seemingly pretended to have been abducted. Was this a big hoax? Was she running away from her husband of just a couple of months, a few months? Her newlywed husband? Here is what the husband said Monday. And then listen to what the chief of police said when he was asked about him.
I'm very thankful to everyone who's helping us, the community, everyone, but I need my wife back.
She is married. Her husband is here, and she was living with him at a house in Olathe. If your question is he a suspect or a person of interest, there's no reason to believe that.
So, yeah, police saying he didn't do anything wrong, but Stacey Honowitz, you're a Florida prosecutor. Do the police now have to investigate what was the situation in the household to try to determine what she was fleeing from? We don't know. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but there's got to be something pretty dramatic to make this woman concoct this absolutely bizarre and frightening story that left her father in tears.
Well, listen, anytime you investigate a case, you don't just go off of, the word of somebody. If there's an investigation to be done, it will be done. In this case, sure, they're going to try to find out what the reason is that she left, but I don't think it's going to be a bearing on whether or not they decide to charge her, short of what I told you in the last segment. Because quite frankly, I don't think that they think the reason makes a difference. The fact of the matter is she caused a hoax. She staged it. She left on her own volition. And so I think unless it's something extremely severe, it's not going to make a difference what the reason is, although they will try to get to the bottom of it. They'd be doing a shoddy investigation if they didn't.
Well, Aisha's story reminds me of someone I'm sure you'll remember. Balloon Boy! 2 years ago, a gas balloon floated away into the sky, and the owners of the balloon claimed their 6-year-old son, Falcon, was trapped inside. We all remember this moment when we saw it. We all stopped what we were doing. The whole country watched this saga unfold. We were terrified. Oh, my God, there's a little boy in there. Well, it turns out the whole thing was a hoax, and Falcon's parents faced criminal charges for the hoax. Now that it seems clear that Aisha Kahn was never abducted, never really missing, we're trying to determine, and I'll go to Lisa Boeski, clinical psychologist, whether she, too, should be punished the way Runaway Bride and Balloon Boy's dad were punished. if she is mentally ill, because I look at all these people who do these things and they're a little off. They're kooky, for lack of a better word. And I don't know if that's the definition of mental illness, but does she need a psychological evaluation? Should that be put into the mix?
I mean, they can add that to the mix. I highly doubt that's what's going on here. She doesn't seem mentally ill. She's got a, you know, I've heard she's got a job. She's in college. She's been described as independent and headstrong. You know, it's not unusual for kids and young adults from other cultures, when their families have traditional values and they're more modernized, to have a lot of conflict. The goal is to work it out and negotiate so both can live with the consequences. Running away is not the answer. I don't think she should be punished the same way, because Balloon Boy, that was a hoax. I don't think she was trying to do a hoax. I think she just didn't know how to cope with her current situation, and she had no idea she was going to get national media attention. I don't think she anticipated this at all, and I think is probably pretty embarrassed, and that's why she came home, is because she didn't really know what she was doing.
Well, I did notice, look, she's a 19-year-old, and in her voicemail she was using words like pissed. She's very, for lack of a better word, typical of a typical 19-year-old. And frankly, a lot of 19-year-olds don't really want to get married. I think that there's something there. Mark Eiglarsh, you've certainly handled so many cases. Does this woman deserve some compassion?
Yes, but Jane, I take exception to you, my friend with 3 names. Should she be charged, there's no defense that she's 19 years old, oh, she didn't want to get married. The bottom line is you charge her, and then all the reasons that you've stated, that's mitigation. That goes to the sentence. But she did something unlawful.
Up next.